Hello, welcome to the RetroTech 120p challenge. It is me, Jay as Manchild. How's it going, YouTube and other YouTube related things? Shall I tell you to smash the subscribe button? But definitely lick the like button, or one of those things. So this is the RetroTech 120p challenge, and we are playing a 1994 Banpresto game called Gundam X Revue, which sounds very classy, doesn't it? I'm not sure how classy it is. It's a one-on-one fighting game. I don't think it came out on a lot of the any home formats. The sequel to the Gundam Mobile Suit arcade game, which came out in 1993. I think it's pretty good, to be honest. Look at that aesthetic. You got big robots twatting each other with swords. I've never watched the Gundam series, but I do know that it's been around for donkey's years. I think since the 70s, and I certainly remember seeing that main character a lot in the media of my youth. So I don't know how. Maybe it was in like Superplay magazine or something like that, or whatever. But it was an iconic character, and I always wished he was a Transformer because he looks much better than a lot of the Transformers designs that came out when they started to introduce Western designs after the initial lot. So yeah, really cool looking robot. That always liked him. But yeah, really popular anime series in Japan. It's a shame this didn't come out because as it came out at a really good time for the fighting games, 94. So sort of roughly at the peak of when you're getting your Street Fighter Alphas coming out, your later Street Fighter 2s, Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 were sort of around at that point as well. So beat 'em ups were at their peak. So quite why we didn't get this in the West. I don't know if it was in many arcades in the West. Arcades were sort of at that point in the West becoming a little bit less popular, maybe. I still went to them, but you're getting into your eras there of everything was either a beat 'em up or something, like a driving game or whatever. Sega rallies and things. So there was a bit less variety, and maybe that contributed to the death of the arcade. Was the success of things like Street Fighter 2. Maybe ultimately, I'm not saying at the time, but ultimately when everything was coming out was one of these. Maybe you can see why people like me, who wasn't a massive fan of them, started to veer away as there were less, running guns and things like that. Like Metal Slug rather. I'll stop waffling now because I'm talking shite, I think. RetroTech 120p challenge is this. You have as many goes as you like, but as soon as you press the record button, that's your recorded run, son. So if you want to put the practice in, do it. I usually don't put the practice in and therefore never win. So I'm fighting at the moment Charles and Zogbia, going by his name there, who, if you remember, was a French midfielder who played for Newcastle and Wigan in the 2010s, maybe? Or was it 2008-ish? Somewhere around there. It was whenever Joe Kinnear was involved with Newcastle. I remember that. Really, I like this. In terms of the aesthetic, it's pretty. I don't know if you saw the robot in the background get like a rock fall in his head. But another one for me that's going to be difficult because I'm terrible at one-on-one fighting games. So I wasn't sure really where to go in terms of the genital facts of the week. As regular viewers will know, there is a genital fact of the week that I do to fill up time, so I'm not talking about a game I have absolutely no understanding of. So this week's genital fact of the week, I think going by the fact we're going with a really popular anime, it probably does have to be about hentai. Now, hentai is, if you don't know, you are a virtuous soul, and we need to protect people like you because you're not masturbating over cartoons. So what hentai is anime porn, essentially. But that also applies to things like the comics. You get erotic comics in Japan. Obviously, there are computer games as well that show a little bit of nipple. We have probably covered some of them in my series on obscure arcades. But hentai actually, the meaning of the word hentai is a little bit different. Hentai actually means strange appearance or transformation or metamorphosis. Now the reason for this is because tentacles. So you might, those who know will know this, but tentacles do seem to appear a lot in Japanese animated filth. Now the reason for this is that in the early 20th century, in 1907, the Japanese introduced a law meaning you could not show obscene materials. And what they deemed as obscene materials were, sort of boils down to this. You couldn't show a gentleman's flesh wand and you couldn't show pubic hair. Everything else seemed to be okay. So you could show an unshaven lady part, and you could show tentacles, because tentacles are quite a phallic shape, and so it seemed to be that a lot of anime studios would get away with making I don't know, octopuses, very sexualized beings. Now unfortunately it sort of went down the road of so the people that don't tend to have pubic hair tend to be schoolgirls. So I think sort of Japan sort of exacerbated their problem with sexual perversion by taking the natural act of two adult people having a lot of fun time and censoring that, which you may know about that as well if you've been to an adult entertainment site and you've clicked on a Japanese thing. You're probably a bit puzzled why there's a sort of a blocky rendering around the genitalic area, but that's the reason why, is because it came under that. But as I was saying, the method of combating perversion has now ended up with schoolgirls getting their jiggy on with octopuses and demons, which I can't see being really an improvement on the two adults making love. In fact, the first anime hentai that came out in America, which probably is the reason why Japanese animation didn't really take off for another 6 years, was Rotsuka Doji, The Legend of the Overfiend, which featured a lot of testicles and a lot of sort of 15, 16-year-old girls. And the 15, 16-year-old girls not really enjoying what was going on. So, I mean, that was... whoever thought that was the first erotic animation that should have come out in America. A bit of a misfire, that one, wasn't it? Not great. Not a good start. So in terms of people who watch a lot of hentai, it does come from basically millennials, where obviously you and I, our age we didn't watch a lot of things like Dragon Ball Z or stuff like that. Maybe we watched Battle of the Planets, but we didn't really know it was a Japanese animation at that point. I didn't anyway. The proper unedited, uncensored sort of Japanese shows that came out were Dragon Ball Z, Gundam and things like that got a bit of an airing. There was more of a lean towards Japanese animation from the American side of things as well. So yeah, your millennials are your target audience for your anime, and indeed its sexual deviant counterpart, hentai, because they are 144% more likely to look for this on certain adult entertainment websites like Pornhub. So hentai was the 17th most searched term within Pornhub. Cartoon came in 13th and Japanese came in 8th, with millennial users 3 times more likely to search for those terms than people who are a bit older, 35 or older. So yes, that is my genital facts wrapped up. I hope now you understand a little bit more about hentai. I'm just going to go and clear my internet history for this week, as I often do. As you can see, my go is over. I'm sure you'll be best served off going on to someone else's video within this series if you wanted to see people talk about the actual game itself, rather than me waffling on about people emptying themselves into socks while watching cartoon girls getting railed. So that is the end of my go. So please do join us again this time next week for another entertaining excursion into arcade fun. But until then, like, subscribe, and K, thanks, bye.